So in my previous episode, I was starting to make a list, to compile a list of the, the best for the buck version micro four thirds lenses out there. And I started with the bread and butter, this lowly and cheap Olympus 14-42 retractable. I mean, you can't really go any cheaper than this. It's an all-plastic construction, it's sturdy enough, but it doesn't really wow anybody. So I figured today it would be time to change the pace a bit. And here it is, the Panasonic Lumix 45-150 zoom lens. And well, first thing I'm gonna address is the build quality. Honestly, this thing has me very impressed. From the construction and the fit and finish, which honestly you cannot hear any creaks, gaps or groans from the plastic. It's not an all luxury device or gadget, but it has that premium feel about it. First thing you will notice is the lens mount, which is all metal here. Another thing I like about this Panasonic Lumix 45-50 is the fact that, well, this time around the first glass element near the sensor is not integrated in the zoom mechanism, meaning that when you zoom in or out, the lens does not move inward, thus not allowing dust in when you handle it off the camera, which is a huge plus, and well, it was a hindrance in previous versions. Now the materials from which this thing is built, well, I don't know if this is, I know it's a metal outer shell, and I'm certain it's not that thick or not that resistant. Still, it's incredibly pleasant in hand, and it does give off that vibe of, premium luxury, or at least it does punch above its weight from this regard. Other pluses for this lens include the silent, ultra silent, and evolved generation of focus motor, which allows for very silent videos, should you be inclined to do that. Though I suspect that this type of lens is mostly used for photography, mainly nature photography and the like. And speaking about nature photography, this is the best asset for this type of lens. It is very compact. I can compare it with the 14-45 Lumix lens, and well, it makes no difference. It is about the same weight. Actually, I think the 14-45 is a bit heavier. Now this 45-150 does protrude a couple of centimeters, I think less than 2 centimeters in terms of size, but really that's of no real consequence. So I guess that is the greatest asset of such a lens, the compact dimensions and the possibility to take it nearly everywhere with you. So now that we have covered the basic aspects of this lens and we have taken a bit of a dive into what it has to offer, I think it's only fitting that I take it up for a test drive, for which I shall be using the rather unimpressive, mediocre, but dependable Olympus EPL3 camera with in-body image stabilization. So, in terms of performance, there are several key points that I would like to touch up, and they're mostly positive ones. The first of which being the quality, the rendering, the color rendering, and the detail of this 45-150 Lumix zoom lens. It is actually impeccable. In my opinion, it punches way above its weight, and it renders very nice details, even if I shot with a mediocre camera, namely this Olympus EPL3. Now you will see why I mention these shortcomings, because when it comes to exploding the actual image and rendering all the details, you will see some sort of haziness and lack of crispness in the photo itself, but that is mainly due to the limitations of this particular camera rather than those of the lens itself. And well, another thing to note, I shot in full sunlight, so meaning extreme conditions. With Micro Four Thirds, it's always good to have plenty of light, but not always. So yeah, in this case it was too much sunlight, and well, in my personal and humble opinion, even without a filter and a shadow hood, this thing actually performed rather well. So thumbs up for that. Now in terms of detailing, there's no real distortion on the sides, and well, it renders the images quite nicely, and you can see beautiful contrasts, and well, as I've said before, the color rendering is actually exquisite, so great glass on this piece of kit. Now in terms of shooting modes, if you do not plan to use a tripod, from my experience, intelligent auto was actually the way to go, even if this Olympus EPL3 had in-body image stabilization. Shooting with aperture priority mode on actually rendered pretty substandard, even disappointing results. However, keeping in intelligent auto mode, the thing performed actually beautifully, even if there was minimal shake and movement of the lens and the camera. This thing actually got beautiful results at both extreme focal lengths, even at 45mm and at 150mm, as you can see here. Video quality is not actually its strong point, given the fact that, well, this is a zoom lens with some stabilization offered. It does have power OIS, and you cannot turn it on and off like in previous models, like in this Lumix 14-45 zoom kit lens. But here you have MEGA O.I.S, so a previous generation of that stabilization, and this power OIS is supposed to work a notch better, though it will not be compatible with Olympus cameras. So if you have IBIS in the Olympus, it will not work in tandem with the Panasonic OIS from the lens. So I was mentioning video is not this lens's strong point. I figured the shaking and the movement, the hand movement, is too much to render quality images, and well, you can see here my poor attempts with a full HD 1080p resolution. They're not really that impressive, though. If you want to catch something unique and for yourself, I don't know, maybe a bird jumping from a tree to a bush or something like that, you can get half decent videos just for your personal collection and pleasure. Though I would not start a YouTube channel using this particular lens. So let's draw up some conclusions. First thing I want to note is the build quality of this particular lens. The build quality itself, combined with the image quality, the crispness and the wonderful warmth that the images provide, would make me choose this lens in an instant. What I would compare it with, I don't have one example at the ready, but I did own Olympus 45-150mm zoom lenses. They are more or less the equivalent of this lens, though they are plastic fantastic all the way, and the build quality itself would push me to pay a bit more for this Panasonic Lumix 45-150mm. So if you get the Juico 45-150mm at about 100 euros or so, you can get this for about 120 euros if you're lucky, and to me, that's just a no-brainer. Now, I bought this thing at a kit with a 14 to 45mm and an obsolete Lumix G1, and I got a great deal for them. But still, as a standalone model, this thing is actually exquisite and punches way above its weight. Color rendering, image quality, build construction, and compact lightness design would make it a very suitable choice for a hobbyist photographer, mainly in nature shots and so on. And as you can see in the photo I will share right here, I think it actually offers enough zoom for the casual photographer. I took a picture from 30 meters or so of a potential hiding spot for an animal, meaning a crawling ivy plant, and you can see the detail very close, very nice. So I don't think you need to splurge more than 200 euros or so for the next echelon micro four thirds zoom lens, meaning the 45 to 200mm zoom lens. Sure, that will perform better in certain conditions given the higher focal length, but honestly the price difference and the occasional usage will make this thing sufficiently capable for most hobbyists out there. So that's my take on the Lumix 45-150. Would I recommend it? Most certainly yes. At this price point, with this quality, with this image rendering capabilities and the zoom focal length, not to mention the compact design, this is actually a gem and a must-have in any aspiring shutterbugs kit. Paired with a 14 to 45mm zoom lens, you will be able to cover a huge focal length at a fraction of a price for what a professional grade or a higher tier lens would offer. And as always, this has been Tech by Tech, reminding you that I buy, hoard and collect weird and quirky obsolete tech stuff like this plethora of micro four thirds camera gear, so you don't have to. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye bye.